Hey guys, I'm Matt Hernandez, and today we're going to talk about simplifying your setups for team photo shoots. Okay, so it is fall, it's getting close to winter, so that means it's basketball season, or it's going to be basketball season soon. So that means lots of team photo shoots for me and a lot of you that watch my channel. So one of the biggest challenges that we all face when you do school pictures for team and individuals is that there's always multiple teams, or usually anyway, and inevitably, even if just about everybody's there, there's going to be one that has to leave early or something's going to happen. In an ideal world, it would be great to be able to do all the team pictures at once and all the individuals at once. That almost never happens when there's more than one team, unfortunately. So that usually means two setups and you have to go back and forth. So unless you have 8 to 10 lights, in my case anyway, for the setups that I typically like to use for basketball, or I mean, this could apply to any sport really. Unless you have a lot of lights, most people, if you do this for a living, there's a good chance you could have that many lights. A lot of people do it on the side as a side hustle. In that case, you may or may not. But a lot of people are going to say that they don't have 8 lights, so they have to move back and forth. And that is doable, but it's also not ideal because it does take longer, because you want to get done as quick as possible. Nobody likes a long, drawn-out team photo shoot. Coaches hate photo day. Even if they like me and they know that I'm going to be efficient, they still don't love it. So you want to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. The kids may even be excited about it, but they're not going to want it to take 4 hours. So in the past, I have moved back and forth. I've gotten pretty efficient at doing that. We'll do a team. We'll move the lights, set up the individual shots, do those, then move it back for the team. And we can do that relatively quickly. You can put tape on the ground. You can write your settings down, that kind of thing, just so that, there's no guesswork involved. You know exactly where to put things back to. Still, obviously, like I said, it's not ideal. So that's what this video is going to be about. I just did my first basketball shoot for a middle school 2 days ago, and we had a little bit of it's not a unique situation because it was the background in the gym, the way that I usually take team pictures wasn't ideal. There was a lot of ads on the wall on both sides of the gym. So normally I'll take it at half court with the half court line going straight back for me. Most of the time that's going to be seats or stands behind you or a wall. That was the case here too, but there was a lot of ads that did not look good. That were going to be hard to get out. So I didn't want to use that. So we went long ways on the court. So I basically set up underneath one of the basketball goals and then had the kids stand on the free throw line. And then I did my typical team setup where I have 2 main lights, 2 7-foot umbrellas with FJ 400s, and then 2 Westcott FJ 400s. And then there's 2 more as edge lights about 45 degrees behind the teams. And then a little bit past half court, just out of frame with a little bit of flare coming in and those had deep focus reflectors. So that's my normal setup. I thought it actually looked really good because with that, there's LED lights on the ceiling, those circles that everybody's going to now. And they look really cool when you shoot wide angle and low because you're going to get those on the ceiling and everything else is going to be black, obviously except for the kids, the floor, and then the rim light on them. So that setup still looks really good. It's always going to look good. I mean, I've used that for years and it never fails. I actually think that it may have looked a little bit better because there was more lights in this shot. It was a little bit different than what I normally do. So I was happy with that. So I wanted to figure out how I could do the individuals quicker than normal because I actually had 6 teams this time, which is even more than I usually do. So at once. We didn't want to move around a lot. And the first thing that I noticed too was the bleachers weren't pulled out. We could have got them pulled out probably, but I wanted to challenge myself and try to figure out a way to use a similar setup and not have to move. So we basically had 2 7-foot umbrellas, like I said, with the Fusion and the 2 edge lights. So I thought, what would be a good background that I could stay in this same spot? And the lights would probably look fine. The problem is, which I always say photography is problem solving. The problem with that was that I couldn't shoot on the end that I was set up on because there were doors behind me, or there would have been doors behind the kids, which would have let light in, and that would have been next to impossible to get rid of unless I put something over the doors, and people had to leave that way, so that's the no-go. The other end had a stage on it. That's where the locker rooms were. So the kids were getting dressed, coming out, sitting on the stage. Now, I could have asked them to move, but there were so many of them, it was right after school, that would have been fighting a losing battle the entire shoot. And it would have taken longer for me or my assistant to have to go tell them to move every single time. So I thought, how can I get around this? Well, My neighbor actually is one of the cheerleaders, and she requested that I use fog, and I thought that was a perfect solution because fog with a gel, which I actually have a couple of videos on that, and we'll link those in the description below and up here if you guys want to go check those out on how to light fog and atmosphere. I thought that was the perfect solution because we could just put fog behind them with one light, and then that would pretty much, I thought it would probably work with the same team setup. Now, typically I'll use one light, maybe two for the key, like the key light will usually be a beauty dish for individuals or for sports pictures in general. I might have a second one maybe for Phil, but usually it's just one. So that would be typically my individual setup would be a beauty dish and edge lights and maybe a hair light and maybe a backlight on the bleachers or something like that. So I thought this really should work. And since I've moved to the model of letting them take multiple pictures, I used to just let them take one pose. Now I let them take like three. And so this, and kids want to do different stuff, especially with something like basketball. That, you know, some kids are going to want to dribble, some are going to want to just hold the ball, some are going to want full body, some are going to want zoomed in. Cheerleaders might want to do a jump, that kind of thing. So you need to have somewhat of a wide set if you're going to do that, because if you have something real tight, then you're going to have to move the lights. I've gotten into that before. I have a bleacher setup that I do that I'm going to show you in a minute, that I've done a million times in the past, that looks really good, but the edge lights typically are pretty close. So when you have more than one person, if they want to do a group picture with like 3 or 4 kids, then you got to move them back. It's not a whole lot of room to dribble, that kind of thing. So it's constantly moving lights around, and it's not ideal. But I thought that maybe if I lit it wider intentionally this time, that would work really well, and it ended up working out perfect. So let's look at the screen here, and I'm going to show you. So this is an example. The team picture, so this is last year from McCracken County High School. This is just the boys' high school team. And this is the same setup I just talked about. 2 edge lights with deep focus reflectors, 2 main lights with 7-foot umbrellas and diffusion. So always works great. This is set up at half court, just like I told you that I normally do. And it looks good because there's nothing distracting in the background. It's just the ceiling and bleachers. And then the individuals is a 3-light setup, also actually a 4-light setup. We had a 1x4 strip box on each side for the edge lights, the beauty dish for the main light, and then up in the bleachers, so would have been like up here in the background. That's like the walking area around the top where the upper deck is for the bleachers. So I had another light up there with a deep focus reflector and a grid for a hair light. So this is actually a 4-light setup, which works really well, like I said, but it's pretty tight. And because I like for the edge light to be a little bit softer on these, so that means they need to be closer. Here's another example. You can see how soft that light is on the edges because we had the diffusion in on the strip boxes. So with this right up on the bleachers like that, it looks great, but it's not, I don't want to say it's limited because you can do more than just standard stationary poses, but you do have to move the lights typically. So, and also too, if you have short kids, then you get this wood at the bottom, and so it's great, but you got to take into account the fact that everybody's going to be different heights, that kind of thing. You might want to have more than one person that wants to take a picture at once. So this scenario that we used the other day, which I don't know that I've ever really done it like this, worked out awesome. I may have earlier this year, I think, with a travel basketball team, and it worked pretty good. It was in a gym that, again, didn't look very good, but using fog in the background and backlighting it with the gel is a great solution for that. So here's the team picture that we took at the middle school the other day. So one difference that you can see is that I was on a tripod with my 24-70 for this shot. This one is the exact same lens, but I'm actually down on the ground. So that's going to allow you to have a little bit more of a reflection there. So that looked pretty cool. I thought that was a neat little element added. So you can see the LED lights behind them. Those look great. You can only see one row here, but I thought you were going to be able to see more. Well, 2, I guess, a little bit. They still look good, but this team picture looks nice. I like the American flag back there. You know, same thing, just a little bit of a different angle on the court. So, but it worked out well. And there's kids back there on the bleachers, or not on the bleachers, on the stage. But I underexposed so much, and they're so far away that they were blocking most of them that were in the shot. I may have had to clone one out in the middle, but it wasn't a big deal. So that's the only issue, is that we wanted to get rid of that distracting background. So basically what we did was put the fog machine behind them to the left. Now you have to understand, when you use a fog machine in a situation like this, one of my buddies asked about a haze machine the other day. When you try to use a haze machine in the gym like this, if there's air conditioning, or which probably will be, or any kind of airflow with a fan or anything like that, that fog and that haze is going to move quickly. And the haze is probably not going to work unless you have a few of them to fill the entire gym, because it's going to get rid of it immediately. I've had that problem happen several times, because you want haze to stay somewhat stationary so it doesn't blow away. And the fog machine is going to be an intense version of the haze that blows out all at once. It's going to move around a lot too. So immediately when we turned it on and tested it, we saw that it was blowing from left to right. So we had to put the fog machine on the left and allow the fog to move across. So I decided not to use it for the team pictures, just to be a little bit different and not have to mess with it. And then we used it for the individuals. So let's check out the videos that we have behind the scenes here. So here is the team setup. So you can see there's the kids back in the background, and like I said, that would be fighting a losing battle. The cheerleaders were over on the side, that was okay, but there wasn't enough room for everybody, and the bleachers weren't pulled out, so there was nowhere for them to sit. So I knew that wasn't gonna work. So you can see my two 7-foot umbrellas. They're on the free throw line. I've got the lights about halfway from the baseline to the free throw line, and then I'm like maybe a step or two back. And then we've got the fog machine behind them, but we're not using them for the team picture here. So you can see I'm all the way down on the ground. I've got my A93 and 24-70. Okay, so there's the first video. Here's a different angle of it. And you can see my edge lights. They're a little bit past half court. Half court's right here. So they're a couple steps past half court and like 3 steps off of the side here, off the sideline there. And you can see they're angled at 45 degrees. So there's kids even shooting basketball back there. If I had seen them in the photos when I was paying attention, then I definitely would have asked them to move. But it wasn't. They may have been in a couple, like a little, like small part of a person or something like that, or the basketball. But that's not hard to fix. You don't want to have to fix it, but you know, you also got to pick your battles there. Okay, so now here's the individual. So basically, all we had to do was. So after we got done with the team pictures, we took one of these lights, you can see the gel kind of is hanging, you can kind of see it from here, hanging on it. I've got an amber and a yellow gel because their colors are yellow. So we took that off, taped it on top of the deep focus, and put it at half court directly behind them. And then the fog machine, we moved over here and aimed it this way so that it blew the fog up, and the fog was moving pretty quick to camera right. So then I was having to wait till it got right behind them to take the photo, but it actually worked really good. Okay, so let's minimize that. Well, actually it's not aimed exactly at the bleachers, it's kind of aimed a little bit at me. And now you can see, so it blows straight out, and then it's important to get the fog in between the light and the subject. That's where it's gonna be backlit, that's where it's gonna be most effective. And then we've got that gel on it to make it a color, their accent color. And then these lights side by side, these 7-foot umbrellas, that's such a wide setup, and they're really big, and they're also angled down about 45 degrees. So that's gonna enable me to take pretty much any shot I wanted to. And they're, a couple steps back, a few steps back from, I think 5 steps from the free throw line. So that's gonna allow them to dribble, it's gonna allow them to jump, it's gonna allow them to lay down on the ground if they want to. Pretty much anything you can do wide, you can do horizontal or vertical. So pretty much covered every scenario there that anybody wanted to do for individuals, and I wasn't gonna have to move anything. The only thing we had to move was we had these lights, so we had these on group A. This light over here out of frame on my left right now, camera right, that was on B, and then this edge light was on C. So I could control them separately. So I had them at full power for the team pictures to be edge lights, but then when I did the individuals, I just put this one to sleep on the left, moved this one to this dead center, and actually we moved it back a little bit further to about half court just so the light stand wasn't in it. It was in a few at the beginning, and once we pulled it back, then it took care of that. And we also put black tape on the front of it so that it wouldn't show too, because we were underexposing the background, making it black. So that took care of that. There's a few that had a little bit of that silver stand in it, but again, easy to fix. So, and then we just had that about shoulder level aimed straight at the athlete. Okay, so let's minimize that one. And then here's one more view. So this is from the front when we've got one, so now you can see the smoke coming, blowing out to the left, kind of straight at me, and then going back across the right. Now I went in front of him a little bit on this one. Most of them it wasn't really a problem. You got to watch that if the fog gets in front of their face, obviously you're not going to see their face, but for the most part, you got to have it angled the right way. So that's why you need to get there early and set up to make sure that you're good. Okay, so let's look at what we got here. So there's the team picture you already saw. So there's one of the individuals where he's dribbling, mixed with those LED lights. That looks really awesome. And I think that was one where I had to clone out the light stand just a little bit, but again, not a big deal. Now this one, the fog covered it up completely, so this one was a non-issue. So here's the cheerleaders, and at this point we had already shot all the basketball teams, boys and girls. So we had a lot of fog lingering in the gym, so that gave us a haze effect, honestly, like a haze machine would give you. So that added even more atmosphere without having the dramatic, really intense fog. So I thought this turned out really cool because it spreads out the light. You get a little bit of flare going on. It's not going over their faces. So to me, that looks really cool. And then here's my neighbor, the one that requested the fog. So luckily that was actually that was perfect timing because it worked out perfect for this. So there's one where that's an example of where I'd actually run out of fog. We had to refill it, but I took a couple shots anyway. So it's a little bit less dramatic. And there's one where it's actually coming out, and that's a lot more fog, obviously, but either look looks great. And then here's an example of laying down. So you can see I didn't have to move my lights at all. It worked for both of them. Now, the only thing is the light directly behind them, I think I did have to lower it for the girls a little bit because they were a little bit shorter. Number one, and then when they laid down, I had to have it right behind their head just to make sure you couldn't see the light, because if it was overpowering with the flare, if you could see it. So I had to block the light with them, but again, not a big deal. So this one's vertical. You can see that nice reflection there. And then this one is horizontal, just as good. So either way works. So we got standing, we've got laying down. I didn't have any, well, there is an action shot right here. Some of the cheerleaders jumped. So it really worked out perfect. Once we moved the one light for the individuals, that's all we had to do. So that helped me be quick and efficient, and the photos turned out awesome. So I think they're gonna be really happy with them. So, and a side note, if you want to check out the camera settings and light diagrams, see exactly where I had everything for both setups, then make sure that you go check out Patreon, and then make sure you check out Instagram. My subscribers will have access to that. So we're gonna leave that information for just the people that subscribe, so make sure you check that out. Also, if you wanna head to my website, it's Matthernandez.shop. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter so you get notified when we post new videos, when we announce new workshops, release new templates or presets, that kind of thing, all the news. Make sure you stay up to date with that. So I hope you guys got something out of this. If you did, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notified when we post new content. There's gonna be a lot more to come. We'll see you next time.